Good morning. Good morning. The first unity principle tells us that there is only one power and one presence in the universe, and that is God the Omnipotent. We here at Unity honor the many names of and the many paths to God. Would you please stand for our invocation? We are now in the presence of pure being and immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. We acknowledge thy presence and thy power, O blessed Spirit. And thy divine wisdom now erase our mortal limitations, and from thy pure substance of love, bring into manifestation our world according to thy perfect law. And our Lord's Prayer, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Please turn to hymn number 51. I lift mine eyes unto the hills. 51. Wonderful Thanksgiving. We have a lot to be grateful for. And I know sometimes it doesn't seem like that when we watch the news and one thing or another is going on, but we really do. And I am particularly grateful for a group of spiritually committed people like you to grow with and to study with. I'm grateful to you for making the commitment to come here on Sundays and to go to classes. I think that you all are a part of the spiritual light that is critically needed at this time. We can be a spiritual beacon to the lost souls out there, and it's seeming like there are a lot of them these days. We can, by our example, plant a seed, even if it's just a small seed. Plant the seeds of peace and love for one another, and showing people a different way of being. It can seem like one of those times, like we read about in the Bible and other spiritual paths, where humans are only concerned at this time with one level of reality, the physical, material level. These times, of course, have through the ages and history come and go. They come and go, but it's always the few, like you, that end up saving civilization. Our life, your love, your wisdom is medicine to those who don't know it exists and aren't aware of its healing power. You cannot believe how important your example is and the wisdom that you manifest in your daily life. So how can we keep growing and strengthening our faith and our wisdom in these rather difficult times? This is the topic of today's lesson, which renunciation, releasing all which doesn't serve us. It's the 11th power of Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore's 12 powers that he taught. And it's the power that's designated for November. I'm sure you probably knew that it was going to be about one of the 12 powers, because we always light a new candle every month when we talk about the power for that month. One of these candles and one of these colors represents every power. Historically, there have been many times when the level of consciousness in the world has descended into what we at Unity call Egypt consciousness, material consciousness, thinking that the material world is all there is, the only level of reality. In the case of Egypt and the literal Bible story, there was Moses, you remember, who led the people, the chosen ones, out of Egypt. Metaphysically, the chosen ones are the ones who have chosen to rise above this material, physical level of reality, thinking that's the only level there is, and go to a higher state, what the Bible terms as the land of milk and honey. And the Moses part of us, of you, is that part of our psyche which makes that commitment to leave Egypt, the Egypt state of consciousness, and go to a higher level of consciousness, this what's called land of milk and honey in the Bible. We often call it heaven on earth. So the story of Moses leading the chosen ones out of Egypt is your story of your higher self choosing to renounce or eliminate from your consciousness the belief that the material or physical world is the only one that exists. It is also, wrap your head around this, because I've really got to do it this week. It is your inner divinity renouncing your ego thoughts and giving the reins of your life to your higher self. Letting go and letting God. Remember also that Moses' chosen ones did not enter the land of milk and honey immediately after they left Egypt. Remember, they spent 40 years in the desert going through all kinds of trials and tribulations and doubts. 40 is metaphysically one of the numbers of completion. So this means that between our commitment to being more than just a bag of flesh and bones and becoming all that we can be, there is a growth period. That's our 40 years in the desert, a time of tests and trials and resolve to put into practice the wisdom that we know. You may make a commitment to learn algebra, but you need to attend classes, do your homework, pass the test before you truly master the course, right? It's the same thing with spiritual evolvement. After after we commit to something higher in our lives, there are tests and there is growth before a real mastery can take place. It's kind of like an internship for a doctor, right? Dr. Lindian and Brooks and Sarah and all you doctors out there, the internship. You've learned the material, you learned it in med school, but you got to go through an internship or residency and put it all into practice while you still have other advanced people, doctors, helping you out a little bit if you get into trouble. That's what the 40 years is about. Completion, putting into practice all the wisdom that you know. Then there's the Genesis story of Noah and the ark. The state of the world, remember, had descended to the point where the masses of humanity were going to be done away with, flooded out. And only those who were living in a higher state of consciousness at that time, in the story, Noah and his family, only those people will be allowed to survive. On the metaphysical or allegorical level, this is the same flood story that we've seen in every civilization, almost every civilization. Flood stories like the ones in the Bible and Babylonians, ancient times abound. Their meaning is clear to Unity students. When civilizations descend, they destroy themselves. They flood themselves out. The flood idea is a physical representation in the story of the bad karma that people create for themselves. For example, look at the flood of alcohol and drug addiction today. Look at the wave of hate crimes we've seen just this last week or two that are tearing apart the fabric of society. The flood stories usually say that some Jehova or the Lord is destroying or flooding the world and killing everybody off. What we understand at Unity is that our unconsciousness and lack of commitment to a higher order of things in our lives is creating the flood that is destroying our lives. In the East, they call this karma. Most of you are used to that. Action, reaction, stimulus, response. We live a certain unevolved way, we create that karma for ourselves and just attract all sorts of problems. When we're consumed by greed and jealousy and hatred, that same negativity literally drowns us physically and emotionally. But there have always been those few that have risen above and left their Egypt or Sodom and Gomorrah consciousness state and went to the figurative land of milk and honey. Like Noah, who built for himself an ark to rise above these flooding waters. In the Bible, God directed Noah with exact instructions. And I went back and read it. I was so surprised. I mean, there were just very specific measurements and specific kinds of wood that he had to use. Everything was so precise. Metaphysically, this means that we are instructed pretty precisely how we can build our ark, our inner ark, or our life, so that we can escape lower states of consciousness and rise above the turmoil or floods of suffering and death of the soul, our soul. There have always been pockets of people who saved civilization with their evolved states of consciousness, resulting in right thinking, right action, right speech, like Noah and the chosen ones in Egypt. I think I'm looking in the light right now. I would say that at this time, the world desperately needs people like you, with higher standards and a more elevated consciousness to lead and set the example. There have always been these pockets of people who have saved civilization from devolving into its animal nature. They've written books about people like James Cahill, who wrote the book How the Irish Saved Civilization, which maybe some of you have read. He said that the monks in the monasteries in Ireland painstakingly copied all of the sacred texts during the Dark Ages when Europe was getting rid of all this and burning been nothing left. They saved civilization. Jesus was said to have been an Essene. It is written that the Essenes were a small group of very evolved spiritual people who lived by higher ideals than others and who were committed to their spiritual goals, sort of like the monks in our society. Today, I believe that it is up to individuals like you, like us, to be lighthouses in a sea of instability. We are fortunate enough to have all kinds of wisdom, and others need our help, and mostly our example. So how do we maintain a higher level of consciousness where we can be a beacon to the many lost souls who are out there? How can we help ourselves not be one of those lost souls when tests arrive? I've been asking myself this question all week. A huge test, the biggest of my whole life, happened this week. One of the ways to pass the spiritual test is to do what you are doing. Attend services and classes where you can continually remind yourself of what is really important and be in the company of other people who are on the same path. I'd say that spiritual groups like this one at Unity are an oasis in that respect. Another way is to use your spiritual tools, your Unity tools, like the one that we're talking about today. Going to renunciation, letting go of all that does not serve you on your spiritual path. That is metaphysically what is meant by being a chosen one, leaving your state of Egypt, your state of lower consciousness. When we choose to leave that state of thinking that the mundane physical world is all there is, Egypt's state of consciousness, we are taking the first step toward the land of milk and honey for ourselves, or heaven on earth, whatever we choose to call it. But remember, the chosen ones lived in that desert for 40 years. They even doubted Moses at one point. 40 years before they reached their destination. Now, 40 being the metaphysical number for completion in the Bible. Those 40 years simply represent, could be 1 year or 1,000 years, the time of completion when we are put to the tests and apply the wisdom that we have committed to. This is the homework. These are the tests that help us grow. If we don't have some tests, we don't really have as big a chance to grow. I was told that 2 weeks ago by one of my spiritual teachers, and bam, I didn't even know what he was talking about. He said, you will have tests, and I went, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. One such lesson is learning to release or renounce or eliminate from our lives everything that impedes our growth toward this higher state of being. It is putting it into action. And Fillmore says that this elimination process really isn't that difficult. He wrote, and I quote, I realize that the cleansing and purifying power of the Holy Spirit is active in me. It's already there. We need only commit ourselves and then let that which is naturally within us, our inner divinity, do its thing. Let go and let God. You already know in your heart what is best and right for you. It's different for each person what we have to eliminate so that you won't be drowned in the floodwaters of life. You just need to follow those instructions like Noah did, the right kind of wood, the right measurements, etc., and build your inner ark. It's your ark. You are Noah, so that you can rise above the turmoils and suffering in life. Your inner divinity will show you the way. All you need to do is listen to your higher power? Do you need to release certain habits, maybe certain friends, a job, a way of thinking? It will be clear to you. Some call it intuition. The answers may come in prayer and meditation. And if they don't, I suggest what my priest told us one time in the Episcopal Church of Shreveport. Just ask 3 spiritual friends, ask 3 people around here, and you will get your answer. The Sufis, which are the esoteric branch of Islam, have a group known as the whirling dervishes. How many of you all have seen the whirling dervishes on television? In person. Great. Okay. They do an exercise where they twirl and twirl around, saying, affirming, denying, reconciling, affirming, denying, reconciling, affirming, denying, reconciling. It is a meditation, but the true esoteric point is the same as Fillmore's 11th power of elimination, which they translate as denying. They concentrate on eliminating, denying, getting rid of whatever is not serving them. When we do this, a reconciling force then comes in and creates a whole new level for us. So that with each turn of life, we are on a whole higher level to deny something that's even higher. Thus, a higher version of us is being continually reborn with every denial. For the Hindus, their Holy Trinity is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma is their translation for God, the Creator. Vishnu is the preserver of all that's good. Shiva is the destroyer. Shiva's good because she eliminates and accepts all the bad in our lives. Fillmore's 11th power of elimination or release is the same as the Hindu destroyer god Shiva. If we don't develop that power, we can't rid ourselves of that which doesn't serve us on our path. If we retain our judgment, selfishness, negativity, ego-centered ways, listening to our ego, we create the karma that destroys our chance to be the fully evolved God beings that we were actually meant to be and are. And we too are flooded by life's problems instead of rising above them on our spiritual ark, like Noah, sailing safely away. It's interesting that in Hinduism, one of the manifestations of Shiva is Kali, a god called Kali. And Kali is, I've talked to you about Kali once before. She's this tarantula, huge tarantula-looking goddess with these bloodshot red eyes, and she's holding these heads that have been severed that are dripping with blood. Hindus give to Kali all their negativity, their greed, anger, selfishness, judgment, etc. They just keep on feeding it to Kali every time they see more of it in themselves. Renunciate, deny, eliminate, release. Then when the last little bit of negativity is given over to Kali, she becomes a golden goddess. Beautiful golden goddess. That's the importance of elimination in our lives. When we renounce or release all of our negative traits, we too are transformed into a golden goddess. There's something similar in Buddhism too. Buddhists carefully meditate on their motives until they see them clearly, and then they let go of their attachments to whatever doesn't serve. Elimination. It's like peeling away the layers of the onion, the ego onion, until they get right down to their essence. The Kabbalah in mystic Judaism is filled with all kinds of illusions, metaphors, and symbolism involving elimination, letting go. It's perhaps, for us, most clearly seen in the Bible in the Old Testament biblical stories like Noah's Ark and Moses leading the people out of Egypt. Metaphysically, the Ark is the spiritual teachings, just Just imagine this in your mind. Your ark is the spiritual teachings that save you from the mundane and worldly aspects of life that drown most people, that cause their downfall. They think the visible world is all there is, and they literally drown due to their misunderstanding. Noah made his ark specifically down to the last plank, according to God's instructions. Thus, Noah and his family were able to sail above life as evolved beings. In our terms, this ark was constructed with the wisdom of the ages. Those of you who are familiar with that term from Manly Hall. When we eliminate or leave behind all that is not wise and holy, we too will be able to start a new life on higher ground, like Noah and his family. It's perhaps easier for us Westerners to see this concept in Matthew 5:30. Jesus said, and I quote, "If thy right hand offendeth thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it is better to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell." Meaning your life could be ruined. We don't believe in literal hell. Again, elimination for the purpose of improving your life. Maybe we commit to not gossiping, lying, doing drugs or alcohol, or spending time with people who do, whatever you feel like is important for you. Maybe we commit to giving extra time to the world, people who need it, animals who need it, in some way. You know what helps and hinders your evolvement into the highest form of you. When Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore presented his idea of the 12 powers, he designated one of the 12 disciples and a part of our body for each power. And a color, by the way, as you see with the candles. The disciple he designated for elimination, the November power, is Thaddeus. And that part of the body being designated is the lower part of the back, the base of the spinal column. Fillmore said, I quote again, "The apostle Thaddeus carries forth the work of elimination of error thoughts from the mind, as like waste food from the body." He says this seems a bit indelicate, but it certainly helps us see how the power of elimination or renunciation is important if we are to cleanse and purify ourselves. As we cleanse and let go of waste in our minds and lives, we feel better. When we purge out that which is no longer useful on our spiritual path, our bodies function better and we feel more relaxed. We also make way for more of the good to come to us. End of quote. Charles Fillmore said that the power of elimination is the power that cleanses and purifies. It baptizes us. I love that word. It baptizes us into the Holy Spirit, the higher levels of consciousness that allow us to manifest in our lives heaven on earth. If we hold on to things like unforgiveness, judgment, and negativity, and other impurities, we have to deal with the physical and emotional woes that this consciousness manifests in the physical world, in our lives. That is the third unity principle. Our thinking creates and attracts our life. We create our life. We're talking about this in the school today. So it behooves us to eliminate from our thinking those things that create unhappy, unfulfilled lives of negativity, which cause us physical illness and emotional illness. There is an absolute realm of spiritual being that we all share with the Source and each other. We're all one. We're all part of it. It's the world of forms that Plato described. It's the spiritual realm of heaven that Jesus spoke of. The collective unconsciousness that the famous psychiatrist Carl Jung wrote about is part of it. Fillmore says that we draw from this realm are 12 powers to live a fulfilled and complete life. Thus, the absolute gets expressed, his higher plane gets expressed and manifested in our daily life. This is a mature application of the spiritual realm that enables us to meet and solve life's challenges on a higher level. Practical mysticism, if you will. It's not avoiding life's suffering and problems. It's facing them and overcoming them. Jesus said that he didn't come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. He said that love for everyone was the fulfillment of the law. Our ticket to manifesting heaven on earth for us. Eliminating pride, prejudice, unloving thoughts of any kind toward anyone is bringing down that absolute realm into the practical realm, into our lives. Bottom line, it's smart and very practical to look at whatever we are ignorant of or what we are denying, which might be impeding our spiritual consciousness and causing us to suffer, so that then we can release it. When we eliminate that which holds us to our Egypt consciousness, our existence, we are able finally to reach the promised land, where there is peace and love and joy and fulfillment in our lives. So in closing, I'd like to summarize this 11th power of elimination and invite you to consider for your own good what you might want to eliminate, what you might need to eliminate in your life. I invite you to use your inner Moses to lead you out of your inner Egypt of strictly material consciousness. I invite you to build your spiritual ark with the precision that was given to Noah, so that you too can sail above these turbulent waters of the lower level of life we are seeing everywhere, and not drown in negativity, judgment, and hatred. These thoughts are not you. They are your ego in operation. They're not you. When they seem to be taking over you, remember that. My spiritual teacher had to tell me that this week. It's not you, Mary Beth. It's your ego. It's going crazy, reacting to the situation. You are divine. Your inner divinity will do fine. Just turn it over to your inner divinity. Commit to the real you, your divine self. As it says in Philippians 4:8, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. I would suggest going one step further. Yes, think about what is noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy, but also eliminate from your life everything that is not, so that you can arrive to your promised land or heaven on earth. Thank you. Will you please stand and sing hymn 40, or fill me with thy presence, O Lord. Hymn 40. and relax. Relax. This is your time to treat yourself to total relaxation, peace, and oneness with the omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence of the universe, which many call God. God is good, and this is your time to resonate and remember your oneness with God the Good. Take a deep breath and breathe in this goodness, this peace, this love. Exhale out anxiety, stress, and negativity of all kinds. Breathe in positive energy. Breathe out negative thoughts. Release, renunciate, eliminate. Relax. Relax. And rest now in the silence of peace, purity, and renewal. Think for a moment during this week of Thanksgiving for all that you have to be grateful for. Send your blessings and give thanks to all of the people, places, and things for which you are grateful. Think of things that you might be resisting now, for which you might be grateful later. Release those thoughts that no longer serve you. Let go of your negative thoughts that your ego is thinking. Fearful thoughts, judgmental thoughts that are keeping you from enjoying the peace that you deserve. Cleanse your mind of these stressful parts of your ego thinking. Let them go and let your divine self take over. Notice what doesn't serve and gently let them drop away. Affirm to yourself, I am no longer going to let my ego rule me or my thoughts. I let my divine self take over. I let go and let God. I am free from tensions. I am free from stress and strain and negativity. I completely depend on infinite wisdom to guide me into right thoughts and action. I let go and let God. I let go and let God. You now let go or eliminate stress and tension and make way for a new mental state of hope, faith, trust in the universe, and complete reliance and dependence on God's wisdom and guidance, not your ego. You are so grateful for this wisdom. You are now letting go of intellectualizing about the power of elimination. And you are accepting, quickening, awakening your remarkable power of release through meditation and prayer. Relax and let go and let God take over your life. As you release and let go of all that doesn't serve you, imagine yourself cradled in God's love, which now has a place to enter into you and rest in the silence of prayer, knowing that you are safe and secure. Recall the passage in Paul's letter to Colossians. The mystery hidden for ages and generations is now made manifest. Christ in you. Think silently to yourself the words in Colossians 1:26. The Christ of God indwells in me. The Christ of God indwells in me. This is a mind-expanding idea that may be difficult at first for your mind to accept. Let the focus of your mind move to the crown of your head. This is the physical center which represents the Christ mind in you. Repeat to yourself, silently, the Christ of God is awakened in me. The Christ of God is awakened in me. Now bring your attention to your forehead. Think of the forehead as representing the conscious level of your mind. Repeat silently to yourself, I am consciously aware that the Christ of God is awakening in me. I am consciously aware that the Christ of God is awakening in me. Now move to the solar plexus. As you let your attention dwell on that part of your body which represents the unconscious part of your mind, affirm silently. Christ in me quickens my faculty of renunciation. The activity of spirit cleanses my mind of limited and false beliefs, making room for greater understanding and newness of life. And I am grateful. Christ in me quickens my faculty of renunciation. The activity of spirit cleanses my mind of limited and false beliefs, making room for greater understanding and newness of life. And I am grateful. As you go out into life today and this week, remind yourself often that you have released your limited and false beliefs and made way for a greater, higher wisdom and a greater life. And be grateful for this wisdom and opportunity. Amen. May we bless our offering.